This episode is brought to you by members of the You Run Podcast Network. The Dewey Pod Monster, Voices from the Mausoleum, Pop Culture Reflections Podcast, Video Tasties, Movies for Days, The Ghoulish Gallery, The Aardvark and the Magic Moshi Do Red Dwarf, You Gonna Eat That Crust Podcast, The Girl and the Gay Podcast, The Horror Friendly Podcast, and the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast. All available at yourunpodcast.com. Look who's back. Back again. Heather's back from her flooded house. How are you?
Right. I'm good. I looked a little bit Asian just a minute ago, but it's just when I smile, I don't have any eyes. So I don't... You don't like my background? Look at these beautiful, mysterious curtains. They're hotel suave. I don't know. They're fucking stink. I don't know.
I like it. Heather is broadcasting from her suite in the Overlook Hotel for this episode.
Oh, yeah. Bitch, I wish. I wish.
But everything's sorted and everything's starting to feel a bit normal. You're going home today?
Yes.
Tomorrow?
Tonight, like as soon as we're done recording, since it's early in the day for me on my time, my neck of the woods, we are going to go home. We got a new mattress, got our bed set up. I mean, we don't have cabinets yet, but that's okay, you guys. Like, we don't have cabinets. They're coming. It's a little organized chaos, but it's clean. My house is super clean. So we're good. I'm just ready to get the fuck home because these bitches in this hotel, they got kids in this hotel that are like running down the hall at night. Like, I'm not joking. I'm like, I can't sleep. I'm going to kill everybody. But that's how it's been. And then they're knocking. They're like, room service. I'm like, a room service or whatever they say. And I'm like, get out. No, don't come in here. Get out of my room.
And on top of all of that, you've had to endure a decent chunk of Carole Baskin as well. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yes.
We start every episode with a quote, and I wanted it to be a quote that was relatable to the case, obviously, but is also incredibly relatable to you and the week you've had. So we're going to go with this.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
That's how I feel. Like, I can understand. I get her vibe now. Like, please let a tiger eat me. Like, that's how I felt. But we are better. Like, joking aside, I got new AirPods, and I almost went ahead and bought some headphones. I was going to get the Beats, and I was like, does that make me too bougie? Yeah, I waited. I got brand new AirPods, and they're like even better than the other ones I had. So I hope I sound crispier on the other end now.
Yeah, you sound great. So yeah, well, let's play True Crime. Hello, welcome back to the You Run Podcast True Crime, and welcome to any new listeners who are here for the Joe Exotic adventure we are on. Also, if you are here just because we've had Joe on, please go and check out some of other episodes and stick around because we do wild shit all the time. Like, this is exceptionally wild, but we've got lots of other wild episodes out there. Go and check out the Gypsy Rose Blanchard episode, or go and check out or go right back to the beginning and hear Heather tear her hair out with Jack the Ripper. Like we've got loads of decent episodes for you to enjoy, all in this same fun, happy vein. My name is Scott.
Wait a minute. I'm Heather, but let me tell y'all something. Jack the Ripper, I barely knew her. But anyways, no, y'all don't look. If y'all want to go listen, help us, please. But that motherfucker is so boring. Don't do it.
Yeah. Your favourites are H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. Are the two episodes where... Yeah,
that's
you never got on board
like,
with either of them.
I think it's because it's so boring. Like, you have to think about it. Like, if you're into history, like, I get it. But and true crime, but like that was to me like barely true crime, just because there was like they could do nothing.
Yeah.
Kill everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We are an interactive show. You get to pick the cases, which is how we ended up where we where we are now. If you want to do that, go and follow us at You Run Podcast on Instagram, and that's where we do the polls for that. Also, go to yourunpodcast.com and you can check out all of the links to all of our social medias there. We now have a dedicated channel on Rumble just to true crime. So this show will go out on Rumble earlier than it goes out on podcast release, so you'll be able to get early access to all of our true crime episodes. And it's a dedicated channel just for true crime, where we're going to have this show. We're going to post some other bits that I haven't worked out what we're doing, but that is going to be the home of true crime video content. Make sure you give Heather a follow too. She is Wednesday Wine and Horror on Instagram. If you're a weirdo, she will not let you follow her, and she will not follow you back. So if you're a little bit strange, don't follow her. Follow her. I can't speak today.
Don't father me. My dad died. I don't need another dad. That sounded so awful. But I'm just saying, don't bother me. But if you want to follow me, you can, is where Scott was getting at. You can follow me, but if you're a creepo and send me a message that just says hello, I'm gonna delete it. Stop.
Yeah.
I've already gotten one, Scott. That's why I brought that up.
Also, dick pics are not welcome on Heather's page.
If you've seen one dick, you've seen them all. Just please stop. Unless it's a different ethnicity. Like, yeah, they look different, but like they're the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, leave those out as well. Anyway, I said we are interactive. You can call us and leave us a voicemail. You can do that on Instagram and X in the direct message feature, or you can send us an email at yourunpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read those on the air as well.
Yes.
Anyway, with all of that out of the way, shall we get stuck into episode 3 of the Joe Exotic extravaganza that we are now fully into?
Let me dive in.
We're going to be talking about the disappearance of Don Lewis. And just as a little tease, there is another interview with Joe on this episode. And after the last episode went out, I had lots of people reach out to me and basically say, you went really easy on Joe. You didn't ask him any difficult questions. You didn't put him in a corner and ask him about the animal abuse or anything like that. So in this interview, I did ask him some harder questions, and his reaction and demeanor is very different in this interview today, because he's treating this very seriously. He's not joking and laughing like he was last time. This is very much, I asked him a serious question, he gave us a serious answer. So you've got that to come. Let's start with Don Lewis. So one thing that's always skipped over about Don is no one actually tells you about Don Lewis. Like, there's so little information given about Don. Like, no one knows who this guy is. He's just a rich guy who disappeared. So we're going to start there, give you some fundamentals so you understand who this guy was. So he was a businessman from Florida. He was originally a trucker. And after he'd done years of trucking, he made a decent amount of money, and he started buying real estate. And he was buying and selling and buying and renting real estate, which is how he made the big chunk of his money. He also had a couple of used car dealerships where he would make more money. At the time of his disappearance, he had assets totaling about $5 million. So that's 1997 money. So today he's worth about $9.9 million. So he was a rich dude. And self-made.
That's rich for I would say that's pretty rich for self-made, and having a family though too, and still having all that money, because he has a family. So it's like, why do you have all this money? But anyways, that's just me.
I'm pretty sure some of his business dealings were a little bit shady. It was the 90s. Everyone's business dealings were a little bit shady.
Well, he was a trucker. He was a trucker too, and that can go either way. They do some illegal stuff. I know, not from firsthand me, but I do know, let's just put it that way. Like, they can be kind of shady. They be doing stuff. So just saying.
Yeah. Don married his first wife, Gladys, and they had 3 daughters and an adopted son from her previous marriage. And everything was going great until he met a lady named Carole Murdoch in 1981. He met Carole after she'd gone out of her house. She'd run out of her house and she was avoiding an abusive relationship, which is horrific. And she was getting away from that, and fully appreciate that's the best thing you could do in that situation. If you can't call for help, get away. I'm fully on board with what she'd done. It didn't take long for the two of these to start having an affair. And the affair continued from 1981 through 1989 before it became public knowledge. And then in 1990, they both got divorces. And in 1991, they got married.
Yes.
Now, in 1992, they co-founded and opened a wildlife on Easy Street, which you'll all know now is Big Cat Rescue. I'm going to say it so it's out there. Don Lewis was a bad husband. He was he was dishonest. People aren't going to like, there's some people who aren't going to like this, but he was not a nice husband. He had affairs behind Carole's back. He would travel to Costa Rica and play out these little affairs. And he used to do that regularly when Carole would be menstruating because he couldn't get what he needed at home. He was rumored to be a sex addict. So, like, I'm not saying he's I'm not saying he's a bad human being, but he is a terrible husband.
I want to say this. No, he was, there's something about the era of that man, that type of man, that pulled in more pussy than the whole wildcat life rescue. You're like, are you serious? Are you killing? How y'all throwing your kitty cats at this man? Did y'all not see him? Your eyes was supposed like this.
No, they all saw his bank balance too. Yeah, they all saw his bank balance as well, though.
Well, then they're trifling women for doing that. But my thing is with him is like, it doesn't matter who thinks that, if they don't agree with how we think he's a bad dude. He cheated on his wife with Carole, and then also still was cheating on Carole with multiple women. And it's just like, he's not a good dude. That doesn't mean that we hate him. He's just, he's kind of a asshole. Like, you're sticking your penis in everything that has a hole. In the menstruating, he could have just earned his red wings. Are you scared? It's just blood. Come on now, Scott.
I had it in my original notes and I deleted it, and I deleted it knowing full well you were going to say it.
Well, I'm just saying, like, don't be a P word. Like, you already are sleeping around, and that's your wife. And I know that is, we're not going to get in that subject, but I'm just saying, if you're a man and you want to have relations with your woman and she's okay with it too, like, it doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't, I mean, get a towel, do what you want to do, but like, don't use that as an excuse to go cheat on your woman. Come on.
Yeah, and not only cheat on your woman, but fly to another country to do it as well.
Costa Rica, right?
Yeah. We're going to give you the official story of what happened with Don, and then we're going to talk more about the possible theories as to where Don Lewis went. These range everywhere from meat grinders through to planes, to septic tanks, to tigers, to everything. Yeah.
It's a telenovela. It's so dramatic. No, that's what it is. It's like instead of being in Spanish, it's like a telenovela for like the US, like Americans version of it.
Yeah.
So it's like a fucking soap opera. That's all it is.
So on the 18th of August 1997, Don left Wildlife on Easy Street around 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was the last time anyone saw him. Now, I know that you will have seen that Carole Baskin and some news outlets very recently claimed that he was alive and well in Costa Rica. And Carole claimed that the information come from the Department of Homeland Security. That was a lie. And the Florida Sheriff's Department the Florida Sheriff's Department confirmed that is not true. It is still an active investigation, albeit a cold case, but it's still an open investigation, the disappearance of Don Lewis. So if you think if you've tuned in and gone, why are you talking about this? He's in Costa Rica. He is not. He has not been.
No, that was just speculation anyways. And Carole did not give a flying tiger fuck about any of that. It's just she was like, well, okay. Like, is he there? Do you not care? No, she doesn't. That's going to be
No,
the basis
she
of
definitely
this.
doesn't.
He does not care.
She really doesn't.
No.
His vehicle was discovered at the Pilot Count Airport in Florida, which is about 40 miles from the park.
Mhm.
The airport owners said that it hadn't been moved in a couple of days when police arrived to take a look at it. The keys
Yeah.
were in the vehicle too. And this is kind of the end of the US investigation. This is about as much looking as they've done for Don Lewis. They're like, well, we found his truck. We guess he got on a plane. Case closed. That's as
Well, I
far as
think
they went.
you're right, but I think that they do that because, like, in America, I don't know about the UK. I say this every time we have an episode. I don't know the rules or the laws in the UK, but here it's sort of like if you go missing and you're an adult, they're sort of like, well, maybe they just wanted to go for a little walk and they'll come back, and it's sort of like, well, you kind of can't. It's almost like what they're trying to say is that you can't. Like, people can do whatever they want is where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So they might look at it like, well, you know what? He could have abandoned his family and his life. He could have just been like, fuck all y'all, I hate y'all. And he could have left.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, living with Carole Baskin, and I wouldn't have blamed him, not even for a single second. Like, she comes across as someone who's hard to live with and hard to keep happy.
Yeah, no, I 100% get that vibe. Like, if you watch any video of her, even for 2 seconds, like, she just has like it's like she's pinching a little kid in the corner, being like, shut up. Like, that's literally her vibe. She's that type of mom, is what I would say. She'd be that type of parent to be like pinch, or like a pincher. I don't know why. That's what she looks like to me.
Yeah, I get it. There was an investigation that took part in Costa Rica. This turned up multiple affairs. It turned up that there was 2 big cats that had been recently shipped out there by Don because he was planning on moving the park to Costa Rica because the legal restrictions were less and he could do more, and his money went further. One thing I find a little bit strange is Don's phones and his credit cards were never used from the second he left the park. They were never, ever used again. And that is like, if you're going to run away and you're going to leave of your own free will, money is essential. And there's only so much cash he could have withdrew, which would have been found, and it's not. He didn't take any cash out. He never used his cards. He never used his phones. So there's no way we'll go through it, but there's no way, in my opinion, that he got on a plane and disappeared, because he didn't have a penny in his pocket. Like, he had nothing to spend. Like, how did he get, like, when he got to Costa Rica, what did he do? Like, he's skint. He can't afford a hotel. Like, it just seems so
90s,
bizarre.
Even in the 90s, I feel like there's still been some trace of like how you get money. Like, if you go to a bank, I get Costa Rica, whatever. I don't know. Like, could he money launder? Maybe somehow, but like, did he have something set up there?
Yeah.
Again, this is so much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with the fact that he just left the park one day and never returned. He had ongoing business plans for the park. He had further developments that he was planning in Costa Rica and lots of shipping tigers and things like that. He had no legal actions or lawsuits against him. And he was both asset and cash rich. So he had $5 million worth of assets. And he had a shit ton of money in his bank account. And if he was going to go and start again, like, even if he was going to go through a divorce with Carole and he knew he was going to lose like half of it or whatever, you would still take out a shitload of money to go and start your new life. You would not have just vanished.
Yeah.
Like, there's no benefit to him just disappearing for him.
And then
like,
not having, no money, no assets, not taking his riches with him. I get what you're saying 100%. So that's going to lead us into talking about the fact that he probably did not go start a new life. He did with Jesus, probably, but or Satan.
Yeah, but he probably went down.
Probably.
Carole claims that Don had some mental health issues. She said he'd been depressed and floated the idea that maybe he jumped from a plane. Now, I'm going to call bullshit on that, because if anyone knows
Yeah.
anything about plane crashes or people falling from aircraft, that is the most heavily investigated thing in the world. Like, aircraft travel is the safest way to
Yes.
travel, because if anything goes wrong, like if a bolt falls off of a plane, they ground that fucking thing for months. They pull it apart piece by piece. They work out how
know.
the bolt fell off so it never happens again. And like,
Yeah,
if he jumped out of
bullshit.
a plane, like that would have been reported. We would know. Also, the theory that the plane crashed again, if the plane
They would have
crashed or
found
dropped
it.
off a radar. Exactly that. But
Because you have
even
to,
if they,
you have to, right? You have to like
yeah,
register in the sky with like, even if you own a private plane. I
yeah,
believe you still, because you still have to be on some type of radar, because they would want to keep other people. Let's say if your plane did start to go down, you want to crash into somebody's house, right? Or something
yeah,
like that. So yeah, bullshit.
yeah. So that again, both of that, anything to do with that plane, that if that plane took off, which there was a plane that took off from that airstrip and went to Costa Rica, it took off, it landed, it was fine. There's no story there whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which leads us into the third and probably the most plausible reason or theory, is that Don just didn't make his flight, and Don was murdered and his body was disposed of. Someone drove his car to the airport, his truck to the
Yep.
airport, and left it there. We've proven it loads of times on this show. 99% of cases, the simplest answer and the most obvious theory is normally
Yeah.
what actually happened.
Yes.
It really is. Like, there's so many theories about how he may have died.
Yeah.
There's the theory that Carole fed him to the tigers. Some versions have him going through a meat grinder. Others
Yeah.
don't. Like, the outcome's the same in that version. He was kitty kibble. Like, he was tiger chow.
I don't think that he got fed whole. Now, if we're going to go based on just what we're assuming kind of at this point, because we don't know. I
No.
don't think a tiger can eat a whole human like that. The bones are too big. So yeah, the meat grinder option before he's fed makes more sense and could very well be plausible, because the cats would eat that. It would be so ground up.
Yeah.
They'd be able to eat it. And if you needed to like kill the tiger to get rid of it, there's so many ways you could get out of it where there would be no trace of Don or anything.
Yeah. The second theory is that he was buried under a septic tank on the property, which is the theory that Joe Exotic floated for years across Joe Exotic TV to the world. The question is there any truth to these claims? Could Carole, the meek and mild, hello, cool cats and kittens, kill her husband? And was she capable of doing that? And was she capable to do it? And did she have reasons to do it?
Do you guys not watch true? I'm gonna tell you something. You watch enough true crime. She's not meek. Whatever. She might play that shit, but I don't think she is. But if you watch enough true crime, women or men, whatever, there was a story I watched on some true crime doc, and it was this woman who killed like her husband, her second husband or something like that. Do you know she got away with it? And then they did not catch back up to her for like 45 years or something crazy like that. Like she was like much older. And then she was arrested only because they had a new detective on a cold case file. And for some reason, he actually put in the work. And one day knocked on this old lady's door and they're like, hey, you killed so-and-so. And she went to jail. But then she died in jail because she was like in her 70s or something. It's fucking crazy. Wow. You can't get away with shit.
No, you can't. Motive is definitely there. Anyone who has got any doubts. After working with big cats for 7 years, Carole had changed her focus on how she saw them. So she wanted to be a pet owner, just like Joe. She wanted to have a large collection of privately owned big cats. And she admits that herself. But as she went on through that journey, she decided she didn't want to breed them anymore. And she wanted it to be more about rescuing tigers, where Don loved breeding them. Don loved breeding them. He loved raising the cubs, very much like Joe, I'm going to say. And this caused arguments and death threats from Carole Baskin. Now, if you don't believe me, which I know there'll be some people going, no, Carole, no, Carole never, ever, ever done that. Let me show you a restraining order that Don Lewis had raised.
Yeah, I saw that on the doc I watched.
So that's the restraining order that Don filed against Carole, and it was for fear of his life and domestic abuse. And I've got an excerpt of Don's own words that he put in this, which is this. So this is the second time she got angry enough to threaten to kill me. And that's pretty much the gist of it. There's a lot more in there. So the full excerpt of that is there was the guys on site who were helping get rid of some stuff from Big Cat Rescue that Don didn't want to get rid of. He come back and went, what the fuck's going on? You can't do this. And Carole threatened to kill him. And the guys who were there threatened to back Carole up. Don Lewis's attempts to get a restraining order were rejected by the court. And the reason they're rejected by the court was over freedom of speech. The judge said that someone can say they're going to kill you and not actually mean it. Which 100%. Kind of, doesn't that go completely against, like Joe Exotic said he wanted to kill Carole Baskin, but fuck, he's in prison for that, but Carole can do it to Don and that's fine. Like,
it's a fucking double it's like two-faced shit. Yeah, double standards. Like, that's the thing. You can literally go around and be like, tell people you want to kill them. And the way they look at it is like, well, they didn't physically harm you. And how do people have intrusive thoughts and you might think that. But this is the thing. It's not the same as threatening someone verbally. Because to me, that's still a threat. Even if I'm not touching you, that is a verbal threat, which usually escalates to a physical harm. Depending on the person. And I don't think that Carole herself is the one that, if I feel like I think she had something to do with her husband disappearing, it was not her by herself. 100%. There's no fucking way. It was some goons that helped her. I promise you that's what it was. Some men she knew, oh, here's a few dollars. People will do shit for $50.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah, they will. So there was a motive. There was also a pattern of behavior here where she's threatened to kill him numerous times. So this restraining order, he raised this because this is not the first time that she's threatened to kill him. She's threatened to kill him before. Now, I wouldn't say it's a wild leap to say that from threats of violence comes actual violence. And she's got everything to gain here. If Don dies, she gets full control of the park, can do whatever she wants with the animals. She will inherit all of his assets, which totaled $5 million plus. She orchestrated the demise of numerous big cat owners. We know this for a fact. So Joe Exotic, Bagavanga, like all these other big cat owners across the United States, private ones, she helped orchestrate their downfall and their cats being taken off of them, Joe Exotic included. So I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that she had a grand scheme of what she wanted to do. And this was where it all started. This, I can take the park and I can have control of everything. Now, I'm going to word this very carefully because we've said before, Carole Baskin does love to send out a cease and desist letter. So if Carole Baskin had killed her husband or had got people to kill her husband, how would she have done it? You see that? Just in case anyone...
I know what you're doing. We ain't trying to get sued. Carole, stay in your lane. It's just our opinion.
Yeah. You keep your cool cats and kittens the fuck away from me with your legal letters.
That's exactly. Thank you.
I've said it lots of times across the episodes we've released already that Carole killing her husband, how would she have done it? Let's go with feeding him to the tigers first.
Yeah.
You can take this with or without meat grinder option in your head. I'm not going to play them both out separate. Like, pick if you want the meat grinder in your story or not. So Carole killed her husband. Insert method here. She shot him, stabbed him, had a couple of guys beat him up, whatever way you want that to have happened.
Yep.
She then decided she needed to get rid of the body. So she has an exotic wildlife park filled with hundreds of big cats. Is it possible for a cat to completely eat a human without leaving any bones or identifiable markers? No, it's not. It's not possible.
No.
Big cats can consume huge amounts of human flesh, but once they get down to, like, especially the bigger bones, they're just, it'll be like a dog. You give a dog a chew toy, like that dog, they're just going to chew on the bone.
Well, you've seen them kill animals on wildlife shows. Them kill other animals bigger than them, right? They don't eat the bone. Yeah, they eat let's say they eat the big meaty parts, and then they just left it to rot. They just go on to the next. That's what they do.
Yeah, and I've done a bit of digging to see how it actually works, and tigers can't digest big bones. Like, if you give a tiger a chicken, a tiger will eat a chicken, bones and all. They'll just swallow that whole.
Yeah.
But something bigger, they just can't. They can't digest it. And if she'd done that, that gives her lots more other issues to deal with. Like, the tigers are finished with his meat now. How do I get his bones out? What do I do with his bones? Where do I get rid of them? Like, she's creating another. Also, how do I get in the enclosure without the tiger mauling me to remove the evidence?
Very true. Yeah, because you have to leave it there. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're going to get a stick and poke at it? Like, no. They'll tear her ass apart too.
Yeah. Septic tank burial or burial throughout the park. Maybe Joe was onto something.
Maybe.
We're going to talk about it, but before we do, we're going to take a very, very, very quick break.
There's nothing better than hanging out with your best friends chatting horror movies. At Voices from the Mausoleum, we have programming that covers everything from found footage to gaming, interviews, and even the first horror morning talk show. Come join us. We're all friends at the Mausoleum.
So make sure you go and check out Voices from the Mausoleum and all of the other network members at yourunpodcast.com. We are going to share the interview with Joe now. And then we're going to get into the septic tank debacle afterwards. We're also going to talk about Don Lewis's potential final resting place. Those of you who listened to the last episode are going to see a very distinct contrast in how Joe is in this interview. I said it at the beginning of the show, but I want to reiterate it again now. I asked him some harder questions, and he is a lot more serious. This may not be the wild Tiger King interview you expected, but this is an interview that you're not going to see or hear anywhere else, because no one else done what he'd done and actually asked him something that was difficult for him to answer. So, like last time, me and Heather are going to disappear off of the screen, and then you're going to be greeted with the wonderful face of Mr. Joe Exotic. Charges you're actually charged with, like one of the charges is the killing of the tigers, and I want to talk about this because I've done a little bit of digging, and from what I can work out is you've done that legally. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So
what actually happened then?
Okay, all right, here's the whole story, okay? The USDA makes you have protocols, okay, in order to have a license. Okay, so I have protocols on diets, feeding, vet care, the whole 9 yards, everything. And then I have a veterinarian protocol with my veterinarian as well, okay? And both of them signed off on euthanization of any animal can be by either injection or gunshot. Okay? All right, well, for 23 years, we have done this, okay, without any issues whatsoever. And in 23 years, I never saw a federal fish and wildlife agent ever walk onto my park and want to know how many tigers we had, how many have died, how many have been born, where they're at, and where the bodies are from the ones that did pass away. Never in 23 years. Okay? All right, so I had these tigers that were, and there was 5 of them between 20 and 23 years old. Okay, some of them I had rescued back in the early days, and they had been declawed. And when you declaw a tiger, you have to cut the whole finger off. So that means that they're walking on knuckles instead of a sponge, of their claws retracting and you know, when they walk, they retract, and a tiger and a cat does not leave claw prints in a track because the claws are retracted. Okay, so without those fingers, they're walking on solid knuckles. Okay, so over the course of their entire lives, they limping and everything else, their bodies, you know, grow and adjust to that limp, just like a human being does. You know, their backs get crooked and everything else. So, dude, they should have died naturally when they were 14 to 16 years old. Okay, but being in captivity and being babied and taken care of, animals live longer than they should. Okay, so my veterinarian and my USDA inspector, Debbie Cunningham, who they couldn't find her to subpoena her to court, and I don't know how you can't find a federal employee, okay, to subpoena for court, but that was their excuse. Okay, she always told me, she said, Joe, why are you keeping all of these old crippled animals alive in cages when you have 260 tigers? You need to put some of these to sleep and put them out of their misery. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I said, how can we do it? Okay? And she goes, it doesn't matter as long as you follow your protocol and it's done instantaneously, which means as fast as you can with no pain.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so here comes the dilemma, okay? In order for a veterinarian to euthanize a tiger, I have to shoot them with a tranquilizer dart, okay? And this dart is about 8 inches long, and it has a needle that's 1.5 inches long, and it has a gel cap halfway down the needle. So that way, and it's got a 22 gauge primer inside the dart.
Yeah.
So when it travels at like 200 miles a second, and when it hits that animal, it hits it so hard, and it gets so hot that gel cap goes into the skin, so the dart doesn't fall out.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay. All right. And at that time, the animal is climbing the fence and freaking out and everything else. Okay. Now, depending on how fat the animal is, how skinny the animal is, whether it's excited, the adrenaline, whether it's been tranquilized several times in its life and it has an immunity to the drug, sometimes you have to shoot them 5 or 6 times with darts to finally get them to go to sleep. Okay, so over the period of the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're shooting this animal with multiple darts. It's having seizures and convulsions, and it's throwing up before it goes to sleep. Okay? Happens every time. Every animal has seizures and goes to sleep. Okay? And throws up. So then the vet can walk in and give it a shot and kill it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I chose, okay, it was more inexpensive, and it was a whole lot faster, and it was more humane. Since my tigers know me, I got them to come up to the fence. I used a 410, and I put it to their forehead, and it was over in a split second.
Yeah.
Then out of respect for my animals, we dug a hole with the tractor. I laid them side by side. We didn't remove their teeth. We didn't remove any of their hair or anything else. And I buried them side by side, and I covered them up. So that way, if the question ever arose, one day I could prove where the bones and the bodies are all of my animals that I ever buried. Okay? Because Carole and her bullshit was everybody that's in the tiger world sells the bodies on the black market, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. All right. So they couldn't arrest me for when I got charged. I got charged with one murder for hire charge. That's when they arrested me.
Yeah.
And the minute I asked for a trial, they superseded my indictment with 20 more charges of the animals and one more murder for hire charge. Okay, so that's when they didn't charge me with animal cruelty or animal abuse. They charged me with taking an endangered species without a permit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, that means I bred and raised and rescued these animals, and I took care of them over the period of 23 years. The government didn't pay any of it. They never came and checked on them. They never made me inventory them. And if I would have had to have gotten a permit, which I don't believe I had to, because I was following another government guideline.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The people who inspected me told me to put them down. Okay. So, if I would have filed for a federal fish and wildlife permit to say take an endangered species, that would have took anywhere between 6 and 10 months. Okay, so during that 6 and 10 months, now I've got PETA, Carole, the Humane Society, and everybody else on my ass because I'm making these sick, crippled animals stay alive in a cage to make money on for people to see.
Yeah, which leads me on to Carole. So Carole is kind of the driving force behind all of the problems that were caused. But it wasn't Carole that sold you up the river. It was James Garretson, Jeffen, Lauren Lowe, and Alan Glover. And
but they were working for Agent Matt Bryant with the Federal Fish and Wildlife, who is working for Carole.
Yeah, see, this is what I wanted to ask you. This is the bit that no one knows. No one knows this relationship between Matt Bryant and Carole orchestrating your demise.
Let me explain the whole circle to you. Okay, in 2016, Dan Ash, the director of the Federal Fish and Wildlife, was also the president of the American Zoological Association, which is the nonprofit of the AZA, who is the big city zoos like Dallas, Oklahoma City, Miami, all of the big city zoos are AZA zoos. Okay, which should have been a conflict of interest because he should not have been a person in a law enforcement position to change laws to benefit his nonprofit. Okay, so what they did, so you have Dan Ash as the president of the AZA, and you have Carole, who was the president and CEO of the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries.
Yeah.
Now you have both of them have the power to be of the Federal Fish and Wildlife. So they put generic tigers on the endangered species list in 2016 in order to start this whole little circus process. Okay, a mud tiger is not endangered, period. Okay, it has nothing to do with conservation or endangered tigers. Doesn't belong on the endangered species list. The only reason it's on there now, and the only reason that the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries and the AZA are exempt from the Big Cat Safety Act, is to create an illegal monopoly, so they're the only two organizations that can now breed and exhibit tigers.
Yeah, which they do.
Okay, and it worked. They pulled it off. Okay, but Joe stuck his nose in all of this for way too many years. Okay, it really all started with Terry Thompson in Ohio, in Zanesville, Ohio. With the man that let his animals out and he killed himself, and they shot all them tigers. Okay, you will never in a million years convince me that Terry did that. I believe that and I went over there and I investigated it. And I talked to people and I found animals that they hid in people's kitchens the day before Terry got killed. Okay, you'll never convince me that Don Lewis didn't get killed by Carole, and you'll never convince me that Terry Thompson was not murdered by the same little organization. Okay, so it worked, okay, in Ohio. Terry is this crazy bastard. So now we pass Senator Boltzmann and Governor Kasich and everybody else introduced an emergency bill. I went over there and testified in front of the Senate and the House to try and stop it, okay? Because if a politician of any magnitude has a brain or without his head in his ass, what is the difference between taking a tiger out of Ohio in someone's private zoo and moving it to Tampa, in the middle of Tampa, Florida, to Carole Basking's private zoo?
Well, nothing. It's the same.
What is less dangerous? Okay? You know, for years, Carole was like, oh, everybody's dangerous but me. Well, a lady finally lost her arm at Carole's a couple Christmases ago. You know?
And Carole used to breed as well. Carole in the early days was breeding tigers too.
Shit happens, okay? All right, so here, and I have copies of the contracts on all of my on my computer. I have access still to all of this, okay? So they passed this law in Ohio, all right? And then they start issuing $250,000 contracts to Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries facilities to come into Ohio and move the people's animals from their home to places like tigers and bears in California. And I have those contracts for $250,000 from the state of Ohio. That's what this is really about, okay? So now, okay, they got all of the animals out of Ohio. They got, okay, so that solved Ohio's problem, but it still didn't solve the Big Cat Safety Act's problem because Joe's still out there stopping the Big Cat Safety Act. So the minute they get me arrested, they nicknamed that bill the Tiger King bill, and they get it to pass because they made me look like this meth head on television, and Eric Good and Rebecca Chatelain, the producers of Tiger King, are animal rights people. They're some of the biggest PETA animal rights people there are. And now we have recordings of them paying the government witnesses to lie in order to make this movie. So they make Tiger King, they get the Big Cat Safety Act named the Tiger King bill, and they pass it, and President Biden signs it into law. And are we protecting big cats? No, we're making them go extinct because now you can't breed them except in those two facilities as places. Now keep in mind, the AZA's bloodline is already so watered down and inbred that it's worthless. And I supplied more blood to the National Institute of Health in Texas A&M to do DNA research to try and keep the bloodlines diverse. And the only way that we did that was because, hey, if I have a tiger and John Smith in Arkansas has a tiger, and they're not related, okay? And having people having tigers, privately owned tigers, was the only way that we kept that bloodline so diverse. Yeah. But now it's over because they took all of my cats and they neutered them all. They spaded them all. So what did you do to save the species of the tiger by neutering them? You killed it right there. You made that tiger never be able to breed again, which done nothing but add to their extinction.
There we go. So, like I said, he was really serious, and there was a point when I was like, I asked him a question. He just brushed over it, and I was like, "Shit, did I push Joe too far?" Like he was very like, "This is how it is." And so on the things that Joe told me, I'd done my due diligence. So I went and looked, and I looked at the numbers of mud tigers, which are basically they're basically common tigers. Their numbers are higher, than
Yeah.
most animals on the endangered species list, that they are higher. That's not a lie. That's a fact.
Yes.
The contracts of Ohio paying sanctuaries like Big Cat Rescue $250,000 to come and pick up 5 or 6 tigers is a thing. There were several sanctuaries that had 4 payments of $250,000 to go and pick up 4 or 5 tigers. So they're being paid $1 million to drive a couple of trucks up, pick up some tigers and drive them back again. So there is truth to what he said, but there's also stuff in there that I wasn't happy with that I'm going to talk about. I'm also going to quickly say that interview is cut short. We did have another interview lined up with Joe, which didn't get to go ahead because all of a sudden I had to be verified. Which, bear in mind, I've spoken to Joe twice at this point. All of a sudden, the prison service said, "No, we need to verify who you are now." So I went through the verification process, and then they come back with, "We can't verify you because you're not a US citizen," which meant that interview couldn't go ahead. So we still have got another half of this interview where it goes somewhere much darker and gets a lot wilder, but that's for next time. But things I wasn't happy with, like the killing of the tigers with a gun, whether that's regulation or not, like that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that. And I don't like the fact that when you tranquilize a tiger, it does have fits and seizures. And again, I looked into that, and that is a thing. When you trank any animal, like it's not like when you get put to sleep in a very controlled way in a hospital. This is, they take the biggest amount of tranquilizer they can fit into a dart, and they fire it as fast as they can into a wild animal, and the animal loses its shit. Like, you imagine going to the hospital for a procedure and they shoot you with a dart that burns your skin. Like, you'd go mental. And like all of that, it doesn't sit well with me. It's within regulations, but it doesn't sit well with me. And
I don't know how I feel about that.
No. And as for not being able to find his USDA agent who covered his park, and not being able to locate them to subpoena them to court when they're still an active government worker, I'm calling some serious bullshit on that. Like, how can you not find, if you're the government and you need a government employee to come to court, that is
you can find them. Come on.
Yeah, 100% you can find them. Like, you can subpoena people who've been in hiding and find them and get them to court, but you can't find a USDA officer who's still out doing their job. Like, what the fuck? And how did that, like, not get raised in court? Like, what do you mean you can't find her? What the fuck?
It's just, it's getting to the sketchy part of everything, because you're like, why are y'all, like, this is my whole thing. I know we're going to get to it, but I'm just sort of like, why is this happening in the first place? It's like, just leave Joe alone. Let him go. He's not an actual threat to society. Again, he did stuff that we probably don't agree with. I mean, with the cats, and it's very just unethical to me. Like, my morals are pretty high when it comes to, like, harming things and people and stuff like that. So for me, I'm not okay with it. I don't care if it was USDA regulated. I just feel like that cat still suffered. It was scared to death. They don't know. And so there's no really humane way to kill the tiger, if you ask me. Like, I don't know. No. But anyways, but other than that, it's sort of like, why are we, I mean, I'm glad we're here to do the show, but I'm kind of like, why is he still in jail wasting taxpayers' fucking money?
Yeah, I agree.
It's so insane. Go get somebody else that did something bad.
Yeah, and not only that, like, the fact that Carole held a position within the Fish and Wildlife Service, and she was effectively an officer, as was the guy who owned shares in other zoos. And these are the two people who are behind the bill that's taking tigers away from private owners and bringing them to their facilities for them to then make money from their non-profit. Like, the non-profit thing, like, I said it on the last episode, non-profit means diddly shit, because when you are a non-profit, You pay yourself a salary if you sit at the top of that non-profit. Like Carole made money from people coming in her park, and she had a nice, handsome salary on the back of that. So yes, it doesn't make profit on
100%.
paper, but fuck, like if you're an employee of a non-profit, you still get paid.
They
And
gotta
those
eat.
salaries,
Like, come on.
yeah, and those salaries can be extortionate. And it's the same with all charities. There was a scandal in the UK not that long ago where one of the heads of a charity was being paid £3 million a year as his annual salary. So, like, this stuff happens. And I don't know. There's so much conspiracy and, like,
It is.
it
It's almost
feels
ridiculous.
like, yeah, it almost feels like Joe is a big, loud, noisy character. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone in the all the private owners of tigers know who Joe is. If we take Joe down, that is a big fucking message, and they're all going to step in line because he's the biggest, the loudest, and the most brash out of everyone. If we make an example of him, everyone else is going to come in line. That's how I see
Well, he
it.
won't. Well, they know that he won't shut the hell up. Like, he's not going to back down. He's not going to be a pushover, because if he knows his innocence. And like, this is my thing. Like you said before, like we mentioned, he could have been like, oh, I hate Carole Baskin. I'd love to kill her. Okay. Who hasn't said they'd love to kill somebody, their spouse, anybody? I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to do it, but yet he's in prison. And Carole Baskin, we have it reported that she told Dawn, I'm going to kill you. I will kill you.
Yeah.
A million times. And this cool cat, whatever you want to call her, she a cougar now. She out and about, pussyfooting around, just like, oh, meow.
Chilling in Florida. Let's go back to Carole, and let's talk about the septic tank. So Joe for years claimed that Don Lewis was buried under the septic tank in Big Cat Rescue, something Carole has always denied, saying that the dates didn't match up. Now, I'm going to say something now. Not everyone is listening properly to what Joe is saying. So Joe has said for years under the septic tank, not in the septic tank, underneath it. So if the septic tank was not there, as Carole claims, that kind of backs up what Joe's saying, because you can't put him under the septic tank if it's already in place. Now, Big Cat Rescue is 40 acres. It's fucking ginormous. And hiding a body while a hole is dug for a septic tank to go in would be easy. Transporting the body across a closed, privately owned park in the middle of the night would be easy. Putting it into the hole and covering it with a layer of dirt would be easy. But all of that is irrelevant, because there's no proof that there was any works done on the septic tank. There's no proof that any dirt was delivered to the park around the dates of Don Lewis's disappearance, which is what you'd need.
Yeah.
And what I found. So I done some serious digging, and
we know you probably killed Dawn. You digging so damn deep. We know you.
I am not going to reveal where these come from. I am going to say they did not come from Joe Exotic's team. I found these myself. I have a works order for maintenance to be carried out on a septic tank around the dates that Don disappeared. I also have a delivery note for large amounts of soil that was delivered to Big Cat Rescue around that time. So I can't remember which way I've labeled these rounds. So this is the first one. So this is for the dirt, which is 120 yards of fell dirt and topsoil. So this is about 12 pallets worth of dirt. This is a lot of dirt.
It's a lot of dirt. Yeah,
it's a lot of dirt, and that was delivered on the 14th of August. So not long after Don disappeared. And then we have this one here, and this is for the dirt, and also for some works that were carried out on the septic tank. And this was on, I can never get the date on there. I really struggle to read that date.
It looks like 8/6/97. 8/6. That's what it looks like. If you zooming in, it looks like 8.6. You guys, if you're watching, of course, let us know what you think. But that's what it's looking like to me, because even though it's sloppy, it still looks pretty clear.
Yeah. So around the date she disappeared, like we had all the dirt delivered. Like that is now a fact. It's not something that could be disputed. I have found it. I've also passed that on to Joe's team as well.
Yeah.
Now, more incriminating than all of this is Carole's behavior. Like this is like any evidence I could give you or share with you is nowhere near as incriminating as the way she behaves and the things that happened at the park. So the meat grinder, the little meat grinder that you see her talk about in the series.
Yeah.
That could never be tested because magically it was removed from the park a week before Don Lewis disappeared.
You'd still think that I understand that, but you would still almost think that they'd be like, you can't remove things. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that went before Don disappeared. So that meat grinder was on the park for years and years and years.
So it makes you look guilty AF. Like, hello.
Yeah. It took Carole over a week to inform Don's previous wife and children that he'd disappeared. And these are the first people who accused Carole of being the one. It was Don's children that said, you've killed him because you're benefiting from this and like you've done this. Yeah. She refused both law enforcement and private investigators access to search without a warrant, which an innocent person doesn't do that. No, if you're innocent and you've got nothing to hide, you're like, yeah, shit, knock yourselves out. Go and search.
Check everything. Yeah, exactly.
She's repeatedly said that she's like, I'm so upset. And you can find these clips, they're like everywhere. Type in Carole Baskin, Don Lewis.
Type it in. Literally, there's a bajillion of them. And they're all, if you watch one, you've watched them all.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
They're clips of her going, it's really sad that they never found a body because I've never been able to prove my innocence. But it's also very convenient that they've never found a body because no one's been able to prove any guilt either. Like,
see, and it's about her. She's not even worried about the fact that the husband, regardless of him being, like a cheater and stuff. I mean, even then, she's very callous. She's just sort of like, okay, well, I mean, they didn't find them, so bye. Like, that's her like vibe. Yeah,
it really, really is. She's been offered on numerous occasions from various different people to take a polygraph test. Which for anyone who doesn't know, it's a lie detector. And I'm going to quote what she said her lawyer said. So her lawyer does not think that any polygraph she could take would vindicate her in any way.
Okay, I'm not going to agree with the lawyer. That's not where I'm getting at. But I will say, I'm a true crime fan, of course. Lie detector tests are actually not super reliable, and not to back anybody up, just saying. They more so can give them a little bit of inclination if they are maybe suspicious. Yeah. Now, this is the thing. There have been people that have been able to pass them. I would not say the normal person can. I would say someone that possibly is like a sociopath or something like that maybe could. But they do it based on like heartbeat and sort of like your nervous system and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're really calm, a cool, calm cat and kitten, could you pass it? Yeah, you might be able to like lie your way out of it. Like seriously. So
yeah. Though, like, again, if you're innocent, like if I was innocent and someone said, can we search? I'd be like, yeah, sure. Knock yourself out. If I was innocent and someone said, will you take a lie detector test? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course I will. I've got nothing to hide. Like I'm telling you the truth. Like you can wire me up to whatever. Now, Carole Baskin was damn near the sole beneficiary of all of the huge estate that Don Lewis left behind.
I don't understand why. I don't think I got this, Scott, not to interrupt, but I just don't. He had a family and children.
Yeah. He wasn't the sole beneficiary, but his family got like a bit and Carole got like everything.
But that's so fucked up. That's so fucked up because of his children were, of course, well adults, but
Yeah. His
Still.
family contested the will, and basically said that she had everything to gain,
Yeah.
and she had motive, she had means, she had opportunity, and she had her brother working for the sheriff's department at the time.
Mhm.
Um, and you now tie that in to the fact she's entrenched in US politics as well. Like
Yeah, I don't.
she's kind of a little bit untouchable. And I think my personal opinion, I reiterate, my personal opinion
Mhm.
is I'm kind of with Joe. I think she had him killed or killed him and buried him under the septic tank.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
That would be my opinion as well. I'm going to assume that. Don't sue us. I don't have anything. My house fucking flooded. Carol, what are you gonna do? You want these beautiful hotel curtains? Like, but seriously, we're all entitled to say what we think. Like, I understand that she tries to sue for defamation and bullshit like that, but like, my thing is, it's like, don't come at me, okay? Because like, this is just our opinion. This is what we do, and we have the right, our freedom of speech too. If you can tell people you gonna kill everybody, we can say whatever we want too.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
saying, it's a freedom of speech, right? Like, so bye.
Yeah. I want to know what everyone else thinks. Like
Yes.
at the very beginning, we asked how many people thought Carole Baskin had killed her husband, and it was a lot lower than I thought it was going to be. And I'm
Really?
curious. Yeah, it was like 76%, and I expected it to be like way higher than that.
95 or something. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
basically everybody. But again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. So therefore, they just might, who knows?
Yeah. But I'd like to know your opinions after hearing this episode. So drop us a call, send us an email. We'll get those into the final episode.
Yeah.
I want to say a huge thank you to everyone watching and listening. The support for these episodes has been phenomenal, and we can't thank you enough. And I want to say another special thanks to Joe Exotic's team and to Joe himself as well, because
Yeah, 100%.
he didn't have to answer the horrible questions that you bastards made me ask him. Like, he didn't have to. He could just gone, no, I don't want to talk about that, and we'd have moved on. But he didn't. He just went, yeah, fine. You want to talk about the nasty shit that I'm accused of doing? Let's talk about it.
But I think that he wants to, because the innocence that that's there, that I assume that he's innocent, because I just don't think that it doesn't make any sense to me. I understand people conspire to try to kill people, but I just do. This is all a bunch of fucking drama is what it is. And he's on the ass end of it. But yeah, I don't think that he did that. And I think he's going to answer the hard questions because he wants to let you guys know, and everyone, like, he didn't do anything. I mean, he may have done other things, but we all do shitty things.
Yeah.
But they don't require jail time. If they did, we'd all be in jail. I flipped off an old lady the other day driving.
And Joe served a long time already. Joe has...
Exactly.
Like, if you take just the animal offences he was charged with, he served his time for those crimes.
I know.
Now,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
if you take the murder for hire out of the equation, he should be out now. He should be at home. He should be chilling. He should be sat down in Florida having a margarita. He shouldn't be behind bars where he is.
Just seems like a waste of taxpayers' money to... And I get it. The U.S. judicial system is fucked. Like, fuck them in the booty hole. That's basically, like, it's so bad. And it's like a lot of people are behind bars that are not guilty. Now, obviously, tons are guilty. But yeah, the animal stuff, he shouldn't have done some of that stuff. And honestly, I would like to throw out a little poll or message us about this whole thing. Is like, I feel like no one in the world should ever have access to wild animals. I think that is 100% just immoral. Like, they're wild animals. It doesn't matter what you go through. Why the fuck are you wanting to have tigers to begin with? Like, I don't get it. Leave them alone.
See, so exotic animals were banned in the UK in the mid-80s. But I remember I was probably about 6 or 7. And the local pub that my dad used to play darts, he used to play darts on a Sunday. And we used to go to the park, and then we'd pop in and see him playing darts before we went home. There was a guy in that pub who I don't know, it must have been 89, 90, who had a pet leopard. And the pet leopard would sit on the bench of the bar down the far end. And that I've petted that. I've got photographs that I've had taken with that cat. And eventually he gave it up and he surrendered it. But like,
but
I saw exotic animals. Like, he would walk this thing in the park. Like, there'd be dogs walking around, and there's a guy wanders past with a leopard on a lead. It's like, shit.
No, you know, I understand like you liking something, but like, I just don't feel that it's right to have any access to a wild animal and try to domesticate it, because I am so sorry. As we've seen videos of Joe getting bit by the tiger, grabbing his foot. Like, if he wouldn't have shot at, he did not shoot the tiger. He shot up. But as you see, that cat is going to attack you.
Yeah.
They are not born to be domesticated. No. How many stories do we have to? That's my thing. It's like, I understand you like something, but I like a lot of shit. I like Bruce Campbell, but like, is he going to be hanging out with me? Wow. No, he's married and I'm married, and now I can't. I'm not Dawn. Jesus.
We're going to be back with part 4 in 2 weeks' time. And we have saved the most explosive episode of this series till the very, very end. We're going to discuss my interaction with Jeff Lowe on Instagram that led to me being blocked by Jeff and Lauren. We're going to share the final part of Joe's interview where he let loose. Like, he really let it all hang out and just went, you know what? Fuck it. This is what I've got to say.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Might as well.
It blew my mind. And there's some things in that with other evidence that Joe's providing, other stuff that I've dug up that I'm going to be honest, there's a good chance we may have to pass some of it to law enforcement.
Yeah, I would 100%, because again, I love that we get to do this, and it's like, it's good for us to have an episode that's not just like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy-ish. I love those too, don't get me wrong. But y'all need to pick it outside of the jail. Leave Joe alone. Like, come on. Y'all let him go move to Arkansas. That's what he wants to do, y'all. Y'all didn't know that, did you? If you pay attention to the show, you know that.
Yeah.
But he just leave him, like, y'all it's just like so insane to me that I can't even fucking say it right, because it's just like, he didn't murder anyone.
No. But by the end of the next episode, you will fully understand how he ended up in a position where he got put behind bars for murder for hire. Like, we're gonna expose it all. We're gonna show unedited conversations. We're gonna show you some of the undercover sting. We're gonna show you the stuff they cut out of the Tiger King. We're gonna show you all the things that will make you go, oh wow, he really got tucked up, because they're
just dragging this on too long. They're just stop.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, we're going to be back on the 15th of May. But until then, Heather, from your lovely suite in the Overlook Hotel with your excellent curtains, will you take us away?
I don't know why you think it's the Overlook. If I actually open these blinds, you will overlook a fucking roof. That's my view. This hotel only goes to 3 stories. Anyways. Okay, guys, thank you all for listening. I'm so sorry that if I sounded ill-prepared. I always feel like I'm not doing a good enough job, but my life's been stressful over the last, 9 or 10 days, Scott? I don't even know.
Yeah.
My fucking house flooded, yo. So, yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say, because you cool cats, kittens, cougars, and lions and tigers, you better stick around.
Oh, my.
Right? But you better stick around, because part 4 is coming up, and it's going to be you're going to take a bite out of it. We love you, and I'm going home tonight.
Yay!
Yay! Stay safe, y'all.
See you later.
Bye.